Assalamualaikum dear students, hope you are fine. Our today's topic for discussion is conditional clauses. Dear students, there are four types of conditional sentences. It is important to use the correct structure for each of these different conditional sentences because they express varying meanings. Pay attention to verb tenses when using different conditional modes. Use a comma after the if clause when the if clause precedes the main clause. Dear students, conditional sentences or statements discussing known factors or hypothetical situations and their consequences. Complete conditional sentences contain a conditional clause, often referred to as if clause, and the consequence. Consider the following sentence. If a certain condition is true, then a particular result happens. If a certain condition is true, then a particular result happens. I would travel around the world if I won the lottery. I would travel around the world if I won the lottery. When water reaches 100 degrees, it boils. There are four different types of conditional sentences in English. Each expresses a different degree of probability that a situation will occur or would have occurred under certain circumstances. Zero, now there are the four different types of conditional sentences are zero conditional sentence, first conditional sentence, second conditional sentence, and third conditional sentences. Now let us look at each these different types of conditional sentences in more detail. How to use zero conditional sentence. How to use zero conditional sentences. Zero conditional sentences expresses general truths, situations in which one thing always causes another, right? Zero conditional sentences express general truths, situations in which one thing always causes another. When we use a zero conditional, we are talking about a general truth rather than a specific instance of something. When we use a zero conditional, we are talking about a general truth rather than a specific instance of something. The structure of zero conditional clause is if plus present simple plus present simple, right? If plus present simple plus present simple. Zero conditional clause represents a universal truth or scientific truth. Consider the following examples. Let's consider the following examples. If you don't brush your teeth, if you don't brush your teeth, you get cavities. When people smoke cigarette, their health suffers. There are a couple of things to take note of in the above sentences, in which the zero conditional is used. First, when using the zero conditional, the correct tense to use in both the clauses is simple present tense. A common mistake is to use the simple future tense. Sometimes we are making a mistake, that is, we are using the simple future tense. So, a common mistake is to use simple future tense. When people smoke cigarette, their health will suffer. When people smoke cigarette, their health will suffer. Secondly, notice that the words if and when can be used interchangeably in these zero conditional sentences. This is because the outcome will always be the same, or it does not matter if or when it happens. Examples now. If you freeze water, it becomes ice. First example, if you freeze water, it becomes ice. plant plants die if they don't get enough water. Number third, if you put oil in water, it remains on the surface. This was about zero conditional clause or zero conditional sentences. Now, how to use first conditional sentences. The students' first conditional sentences are used to express situations in which outcome is likely but not guaranteed. Outcome is likely but not guaranteed to happen in future, right? So, first conditional sentences clauses are used to express situations in which the outcome is likely but not guaranteed to happen in future. The structure of these clauses is if plus present simple plus future simple, right? The structure of first conditional sentences, first conditional clause is if plus present simple plus future simple. Now have a look at the following, at the examples below. If you rest, you will feel better. This is future. If you rest, this is present simple. If then you rest, this is present simple. You will feel better, this is future simple. So this sentence is in first conditional sentence. This is first conditional sentence. So if you rest, you will feel better. If you set your mind to a goal, you will eventually achieve it. Note that we use simple present tenses in the if clause and the simple future tense in the main clause. Note that we use the simple present tense in the if clause and the simple future tense in the main clause. That is the clause that expresses the likely outcome. So this is how we indicate that under a certain condition as expressed in the if clause, a specific result will likely happen in the future. So examine some of the common mistakes people make using the first conditional structure. If you will rest, you will feel better. This is wrong. If you rest, you will feel better. This is correct. If you rest, you will feel better. So explanation, use the zero conditional clause. That is simple present plus simple present only when a certain result is guaranteed. If the result is likely, use the first conditional clause. That is simple present plus simple future. Examples of first conditional clause: if it is cold tomorrow, I will stay at home and watch TV. If you eat too much chocolate, you will get fat. Now, how to use second conditional sentences? How to use second conditional sentences? Second conditional sentences are useful for expressing outcomes that are completely unrealistic or will not like happen in the future. Let me repeat these lines again. Second conditional sentences are useful for expressing outcomes. They are useful for expressing outcomes that are completely unrealistic or will not likely happen in the future. Now the structure of the second conditional sentence is if plus past simple plus would plus first form of the verb. Now consider the following below. Now structure, let me repeat the structure. Structure is if plus past simple plus would plus first form of the verb. Consider the following examples below. If I inherited $1 billion, if I inherited $1 billion, I would travel to the moon. If I owned a zoo, I might let people interact with the animals more. Notice the correct way to structure second conditional sentence is to use the simple past in the if clause and an auxiliary modal verb, that is could, should, would, might in the main clause, the one that expresses the unrealistic or unlikely outcome. The following sentence illustrates a couple of common mistakes people make when using the second conditional clause. That is, if I inherit $1 billion, I would travel to the moon. If I inherited $1 billion, I would travel to the moon. Explanation: when applying the second conditional, use the simple past tense in the if clause. That is, if I owned a zoo, I will let people interact with the animals more. If I owned a zoo, I might let people interact with the animals more. Now, explanation: use a modal auxiliary verb in the main clause when using the second conditional mood to express the unlike unlikelihood that the result will actually happen. Now, examples of this group: that is, if I had more time, I would learn English. If I were you, I would go to London. Now, there is third. How to use third conditional sentences. Third conditional clauses. Third conditional sentences are used to explain that present circumstances would be different if something different had happened in the past. Present, the third conditional sentences are used to explain that present circumstances would be different if something different had happened in the past. Structure: if plus past perfect plus would plus have plus third form of the verb. Now look at the following examples. If you had told me you need a ride, I would have left earlier. If I had cleaned the house, I would have gone I would have gone to the movies. These sentences express a condition that was likely enough, but did not actually happen in the past. The speaker in the first sentence was capable of living clearly. These sentences express a condition that was likely enough but did not actually happen in the past. The speaker in the first sentence was capable of leaving early but did not. Along these same lines, the speaker in the second sentence was capable of cleaning the house but did not. So these are all conditions. These are all conditions that are likely but regrettably did not happen. So note that when using the third conditional clause, we use the past perfect, that is had plus past participle in the if clause. The modal auxiliary would, could, should, etc. plus have plus past participle in the main clause express the theoretical situation that could have happened. Now examples: if I had done all the questions, I would had got distinction. If you had listened to my advice, you would have lost all money. You would not have lost all money. If you had listened to my advice, you would not have lost all money. Thank you very much.